This is a podcast about how did governments arise on the earth. There are four theories for the origin of the state. How did governments arise? The first is called evolutionary theory, the second, force theory, the third, divine right theory, and finally, social contract theory. Okay, so let's look at these. The first one, evolutionary theory. Here are some students who are sort of illustrating what people normally think evolutionary theory is. This looks sort of like the theory of evolution, monkey to man, but really the evolutionary theory is not related to the theory of evolution. It should be called the family theory. The state evolved from the family. That's the idea of the evolutionary theory. So, men were originally on the earth either through evolution or Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and a family was formed. And so the head of the extended family would sort of be like the authority figure, the one that, the elder that everybody looked to. And so he would become sort of like a king. And that eventually evolved into a government. So as you can see here, here's a picture of a family tree, sort of. And so the eldest one was kind of looked to as the king. Everyone respected him. Somebody was very honest, and people would go to him or her when they wanted a judgment. Some people were gifted at teaching, so they were used to offer classes and schools and whatever. There were people that were enforcers, kind of enforced the king's rules, so they'd be like the police or whatever. People would be good at building roads or designing them. So those functions that family members started doing ended up taking on like the form of a government. They organized themselves into a government. So that's evolutionary theory. The second one is force theory. Okay, take the same thing, the state of nature in the beginning. You've got, just people living, and they're each trying to, work their field and build their pasture and their fences. And then some people were greedy and they wanted more, so they would take by force. And people might not countervail them. They might not fight against them. And so these people began to take things and charge taxes on people, and people just began putting up with it because they didn't want to risk their life and their belongings, their family, and so they went along with these people. And so, in a sense, leaders of big governments like Hitler and Stalin act this way. So these people that are taking things by force, sort of like a gang, they end up being the government because people listen to them, and that's what eventually led to government. There's Stalin. The third theory is divine right theory. So as the name implies, it says that God chooses the right person to rule. And so some ancient civilizations believed their rulers were descended from the gods. I mean, the Egyptians believed that. Other civilizations believe that. And in the late Middle Ages in Europe, monarchs taught that their right to rule came from God. And basically people believed this. It wasn't just something that was made up. People believed that rulers were chosen by God, and that gave them a real fear of going against the king, going against the government, because they thought you'd be going against God. And so God sort of set up government by picking leaders, and then people listened to those leaders. And then the final theory for how government originated is social contract theory. The Enlightenment thinkers, especially, were the ones that came up with social contract theory. Thomas Hobbes said that in the state of nature, no government existed. That was what the earth was like aboriginally, and so people in this state of nature, Thomas Hobbes said, it was a place where it was cruel, brutish, short. You couldn't be confident that your life was safe. You never know who was going to attack you, who was going to rape your wife, who was going to steal your property. And so Hobbes said that people would therefore enter into a contract with the state. They'd give up some of their freedom in exchange for protection. And so the social contract has two parties, like every contract. On one side, you've got the people, and on the other side, you've got the government. And so the contract is the people say, okay, we'll give up some of our freedom. We won't smoke in certain places. We'll drive 55. We'll do what you want. We'll obey. In exchange for what the government provides, we will protect your rights. We might also fix your road, fix your plumbing, fix your sewer, give you things. But the most important part of this social contract here is that the government will protect the rights of the people. So that's the social contract. John Locke added the idea, because Locke basically believed in the state of nature. He believed in social contract theory. But he had an addendum that people could break the contract with the state when it failed to protect the people's rights. And Thomas Jefferson used this idea in the Declaration of Independence. So this is sort of like an amendment to social contract theory. It still believes in social contract theory, but it says you don't have to do your part, people. You don't have to obey if the government isn't doing its part. If it's not doing its part, then you can rebel or change the government. That's what Jefferson put into the Declaration of Independence. All right, so there's the Declaration of Independence. So, you got any ideas? Maybe a fifth theory for how government originated?
They sing